So this is just everybody's familiar with this page. I think this is a landing page as you sign in. As you can see, I'm in the CAT version, which is a test environment and not in production, but it's going to look the same way as I'm going to demonstrate. So the year-to-date report is basically a report of all the data that your employer has reported in Gemini since we opened it up back in September. Many employers have been asking for this since day one almost, but it is out here now. So it gives you all the data to the year, and it'll be in a CSV file. So we'll get something out and get it on our website as far as these steps, but it's like 3 steps to get to it. So it's not a complicated thing. But if you hover over services, that's where you can go to TRS reports. We've talked about the SSP deferral reports. If you have any, this is where you find them. But the new one that's added is the year-to-date report. So once I click on that year-to-date report, I will be sent to the report screen. And I've already said that I want the year-to-date report, so it's going to pop up a modal and just ask me 2 questions. And the 2 questions you can't get wrong, I promise, because it's only for 1 year. So you're going to select the fiscal year. It's the only one that's available right now. And the report type, you can do it for, if you have SSP reports and you want to look at all your defined contribution reports reported, you can do that, or you can click on defined benefit. Click save. It's going to retrieve that report for us. It's going to download it, so it'll give you your download little window up here. You can open that file. You can see I've done this several times. And it'll pull it up in an Excel format. So it's that easy. You click on services. You go down to reports. After you click on reports, you go to year-to-date report. Put in your fiscal year, put in which report type you want, whether it's defined benefit or defined contribution. And here you can see it's an Excel of everything that was reported. This is a small district that I set myself up as just because my daughter worked there. So I'm partial to it. But as with any Excel report, there's a lot of different ways to manipulate the view and the display here. This is about the extent of my knowledge to add a filter to these rows. We're not going to be able to give Excel lessons and about subtotaling if you want to do that sort of thing. Hopefully somebody, either you or probably more efficient at Excel than I am, but my staff is just not, we're not going to be able to explain Excel and all the different things you can do with Excel. We don't have the expertise and it's just not our focus. But this is a year-to-date report. It can be used so you can reconcile with everything you've reported through the year. And you can get rid of columns and put subtotals on by name, things like that. So we're hoping this helps and gives you an idea of, if you pull this up and you realize, hey, there's 10 people that are missing from this. Chances are those 10 people their records were rejected when you reported to us. And then we can help you get those people back into your reporting before the end of the year. So anything, Lisa, I should add on this? Or anybody else from TRS you want to mention here? But once you have the filters on, you can filter by job category, and select just the teachers or just the administrators. You've probably all done things like this. So, okay, well, I'm going to move off of this. Actually going to stop.
Grant, this is Sinaida from Winnetka. Is
Yes,
it
ma'am.
possible for you just to scroll over so we can see after the column W?
Anything for you. Yes,
Thank you, sir.
you bet. And there are, before I do that, I'm going to mention there are things that we're going to work on cleaning up. Like this is a column for last four of the SOCH. It is not displaying leading zeros, so we're going to get that worked on. I haven't looked at all the columns, but some of these, the earnings, they're not in dollar format, but you can always change that once you pull up your file or your report. But these are all the fields that are on the file that you're submitting and in Gemini. So when you pull up the detail report for an individual for an individual in any given report, these are all the fields that you'll see within Gemini. So it is taking all the data that you submit on each file or you replicate and just putting it in this format. Does that answer your question, Sinaida? And it's actually
thank you.
Actually in the same order, as you would see on the screen too. So
this is Deanna from Heritage. Will there
sure.
be a summary report available?
Not on this. You can do that. Over this. And I'm not good at Excel. I'll just throw it out there. And I'm not going to learn because I only have a few weeks left here. But there are ways to, I've been told to do sum up each name or by SOCH or by category, however you want to do that. I don't know exactly how that works, but it can be done.
When you run subtotal, you can then shorten it and just only show the subtotals.
There you go. I don't know how to do that.
That will be a selection or an option on the reporting.
No, you'll manipulate it within Excel. So like
Right.
Once you have all your data, then if you go to the data tab and there's a subtotal and you'll subtotal it by name, and then you can then you'll have boxes on the left-hand side, and you can you can then truncate it to only show the subtotals.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for the lesson. Send me a bill. Okay. So that's the year-to-date report we've been promising. So again, if you pull yours up and you have questions about the data itself, we would be happy to look at it with you and work with you. But again, if you're asking about doing all this, I'm going to be no help. I'll tell you that right now. So I'm going to stop sharing and then get to the rest of my list. So the next topic, we have put together an employer bulletin that you're going to get either today or tomorrow. And it's going to have some news about what's coming, mostly what's coming, at the end of the fiscal year. We've been at this since September is when we opened it up for reporting, and since July when the informational screens like the pay schedules and banking screens and flex screens were open. So it's going on a year now. So I've jotted some notes down just so I don't hopefully forget anything. So I'm just going to go through the notes, and then we can, what I'll do is open up the chat and we can take any questions you have. And we may be limited on how many questions we get to, so we fully expect there will be some follow-up and with individuals. So as you know, we've been at this for a while. Not all employers have successfully posted a report. In fact, over 100, just over 100 haven't even attempted to yet. So there's zero data from those employers in Gemini. The goal all along has been to have data for all TRS covered employees reported on a pay period basis in the Gemini Employer Portal. I mean, we've been talking about that for a few years now. And then the next step would be so that as that data is coming into Gemini, we can verify it as it comes in with a series of internal and external edits or error codes. That way, once those errors are resolved, we feel pretty good about the data that then resides in Gemini. And ultimately, the goal has always been to use the data that's been reported in Gemini in a way that for you, the employer, to certify the data, the year-to-date data on an annual basis to ultimately replace the annual report. We've had a lot of employers that have been able to complete the reporting requirements and are completely up to date with reporting in Gemini, so we appreciate that. We know it's been a huge task for you and for my staff, but many of you have done a great job. So those employers who are completely caught up, and I'll define that in a minute, will be able to do an annual certification process, which is a new process that we're going to have available to you. And you'll do that annual certification process in the Gemini Employer Portal. So you won't, the annual reporting process that you've always done before will be a little bit different. But we have close to 300 employers who have either reported only one and posted one report or none at all. So obviously, we only have one option for those employers who are not caught up, and that is to do another annual report for those employers. So it's going to kind of be a hybrid. Some employers are going to be doing the old annual report, the old way it's always been done. And then those who are caught up in Gemini, we're going to use the data in Gemini and allow you to do an annual certification process, which we'll talk about a little bit. So what's the criteria that we're going to use to determine which method an employer has to use? And the criteria we've set up is that an employer has to be caught up with the pay period reporting in Gemini through the end of April by June 1st. So when June 1st rolls around, if you have not reported everything through the end of April, we are going to consider that you're not going to get caught up, and we are going to default your employer to another annual report. And of course, if you are caught up through the end of April, and many of you will be set up to do the annual certification process. Now, that's the default that we're going to set you as, but it doesn't mean we can't change that with a request and a conversation with an employer. So if you're caught up, say through the end of March, and we've defaulted you to an annual report, if you call us and explain, hey, you're confident that you're going to get caught up within the next month, by July 1st, then we can switch you to the annual certification process. But the key there is that you have to guarantee that you're going to be caught up. If you can't be caught up, then the annual report is the only way. Basically, if we don't have data in Gemini, then we don't have, and all the data, then we don't have all that data that we can roll up, display to you, and allow you to complete that process in Gemini. So again, employers who are caught up will do, well, let me go back. If you're set to do the annual report, the process is the same as you've always done. And I just want to urge that, or drive home the point that August 15th is still the deadline. It always has been, and that has not changed. It's a statutory deadline. So the annual report has to be done by August 15th. There's a penalty of $250 a day after August 15th. And that keeps adding up until you do get that annual report submitted to us. Those employers who are caught up and are going to do the certification, annual certification in Gemini, that same August 15th deadline will apply for this certification process. Again, that's a statutory deadline. All the data has to be at TRS on an annual basis by August 15th. So that has not changed. So for the annual certification process, we're going to take all the data that's in Gemini, we're going to sum it up for each member, and we're going to display it back to you in the portal on a newly developed screen. So the screens have been designed, they just haven't been fully developed and coded for. But by the time we get to this date, that's how it's going to work. So in the employer portal, you'll start the process, the annual certification process from the landing page. There will be a new widget and a new button, and you just push that button to start the process. The key is you want to make sure that all of your FY 21-22 data has been submitted in Gemini. But once you start the process, it's going to roll it up. It'll take you to the next screen, which allows you to see all those summaries. And from there, you can drill down into the details as far as you want to drill down to the members, to the pay periods, all of that in each individual record. So if you look at your data and you know, from the summary screen, it doesn't look right, you can find out where the errors are, and right in that screen, you'll be able to make any corrections and adjustments to get the data up to date and get it corrected. You won't have to do that via a new pay period report. You can do it right on that screen. You'll also do things like for anybody who terminated, anybody we received a termination date throughout the year in Gemini, you'll be able to report the terminated sick leave through this process. Basically, you'll be able to fulfill all the requirements of the annual report, except you'll be able to do it within the Gemini system. But once you have everything corrected, if due to those corrections or adjustments you owe any more contributions, maybe somebody's earnings were increased or whatnot, and you owe more in contributions, you'll have the opportunity and you'll be required to pay it right then. Again, that payment will be more of an ad hoc. It won't be paid through the next report. And once that payment is made, if any is due, you can complete the process. It'll basically then take all that data that you've just certified, it'll throw it over into our legacy system, and it'll basically pre-fill an annual report for you. You'll just go over then to the employer access area and certify that annual report and finish the process. You won't be able to make any more corrections at that point unless that report is then deleted by us. But so that's how the process works. I think everybody knows how the annual report works, and there are procedures on the website, but this annual certification process is new, but in essence, that's how it's going to work. And as screens are developed and we're able to use them for training, we will set up some sort of training sessions and procedures, things like that. Just as an FYI, we have talked to the vendors about this process. There's one or two I still want to reach out to. They did not get to the meeting yesterday, but on a high level, they also know what we're planning on doing. So if you have any questions about your vendor software, you can always ask them what the status is. But Everybody we've talked to so far said they do have the capability of doing the annual report or continue on with Gemini. That's what's happening this year. So let's talk about next year, because we don't want to be in the same position next year at this time. We just can't be. So there are other steps that you're going to see on this employer bulletin when we send it out. First one is, as you know, this year, we have not invoked any late reporting or even payment penalties all year. That's going to come to an end. Starting in fiscal year 22-23, we are going to start invoking or charging penalties for late reporting. Because, you know, in Gemini, reporting and payments come together. So the way the penalties are written in statute and in our TRS rules right now is any pay period in any given month has to be reported to us by the 10th of the following month. For instance, any July payrolls for FY 22-23, if you're paying your administrators in July for pay periods in July, those have to be reported to TRS by August 10th. The penalty is after August 10th for those July payrolls, it's $50 a day until those reports get paid to us and get reported and paid to us. Those penalties, the plan is to turn those on again for next fiscal year. When that happens, we will obviously notify everybody through an employer bulletin and say, you know, here's when the penalties will first apply, but the hope is internally that we can get that done by August 10th. The other part of this is a lot of employers have still been paying through First Data through the web access. They've been making all their contributions there and then reporting in Gemini or not reporting in Gemini. But if they are reporting in Gemini, the credits that were paid through web access show up on the payment screen. First Data will also be turned off early next year, early after July. We're going to keep it open long enough for all of the current fiscal year payments to get in case somebody has to use that method, but that will also be shutting down. So again, this year we're doing this hybrid annual process. And we're forced to just because we have too many employers who have not caught up or even attempted to report this year. And it's not for lack of trying by my staff, and even the payroll vendors have chipped in and been reaching out to their employers, trying to help them any way they can. So, but we cannot continue down that road forever. So that's the plan going forward. And one last thing I want to mention that's going to be in this bulletin, we've been talking about the supplemental savings plan automatic enrollment, which is part of the legislation from last summer. All along we've been talking about the target date to implement that auto enrollment would be July 1st of this year. That is not going to happen. I'm pausing just to hear the round of applause by everybody. But that's not going to happen on July 1st. We are still mandated to do it. But again, looking back or thinking about what I've said about the lack of total timely and accurate reporting, we cannot be assured that our eligibility for these new to TRS members is going to be up to date. So we have to, we're taking steps to make sure that reporting is done timely with the penalties. So we're looking at a new target date of January 1st of 23, but I am not setting, none of us are setting that in stone. What the message is, that we're not going to implement automatic enrollment anytime before January 1st of 23. And the big determination is going to be reporting from employers in Gemini. So that's my soapbox, that's my speech. Anybody from TRS want to add anything that I maybe missed before I open up chat? Frankly, I'm tired of talking and they're tired of listening, I'm sure. So I'm going to open up chat. Ask your questions. Be sure to include, again, your full name, your TRS code, so that if we don't get to your question, we can. I saw the first question that threw me. But we want to reach out to you if we don't get to your question.
Okay, I'll let you answer the first question then, Grant.
Am I retiring? Yes. I was going to make some smart aleck remark about being fired, but that would be a lot more fun, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm retiring at the end of May. In fact, my replacement will be starting on Monday, and so hopefully next week on this call I'll be able to introduce him, and I won't make him take over these calls right away, but yep.
Okay, next question. Our TRS employer paid amount for each of our administrators is set up as an earn code where we gross up their checks and then have a deduction benefit that deducts the exact amount. Essentially, it washes on each paycheck. Should we have this alt earn code labeled as FB flexible benefit plan or not applicable?
You were going to have to answer that one.
I'm not sure about that. Flexible benefit plan means that you have an option to receive a TRS salary item like cash or a tax sheltered annuity in lieu of health insurance. But it sounds like that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about your benefits and deductions for your 9% retirement contributions. So I think maybe we need to call you, Jennifer, about this and get some more details.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard that question.
Okay. Our district is up to date in Gemini. However, last pay period, I had to pay over what we took out of payroll due because of a beginning balance. However, this pay period, there is now a credit. So I will pay less than what we took out. Is there any way for Gemini to allow a payment just for the pay period amount?
It's always hard to respond to these questions without looking at your specific accounts, your accounting in our legacy system, your screens in Gemini. So I think we're going to have to reach out to this one also.
Okay. Tammy, I don't have your full name or your TRS code. So if you could send me your TRS code, please.
Lisa, this is Susan. When you get that TRS code, will you share it with me? too?
Yes.
That might have been just the timing issue
Right.
that we had last week.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks.
Okay. Do we still have to have it adopted by July 1, 2022?
And that question's about the supplemental savings plan. Again, we've never said when you have to. The legislation from last summer says you have to. So technically, if we were to say you need to follow the law, you should have done it last year when the legislation passed. You know, again, I'm always curious of what the hesitation is on some employers' part. the legislation is a mandate. It's not there to hurt anybody. It's just to give your employees one more option to save for retirement. So every time I hear about, we don't want to do this, I'm always curious why. Because first, again, you're not complying with the legislation that was passed, and also you're not giving your employees just one more option to save for retirement, and that's always curious to me.
The amounts due for retirees' health insurance show up on the reported total screen in Gemini, but not in the payment screen. Can we pay that via Gemini?
Yes. And I'm not familiar enough with the screens. I think on the total screen, maybe you have to select those that you want to pay them before they get to the payment screen.
That is correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
so you have to tell us you want to remit on the total screen. Once you tell us you're remitting for it, then on the payment screen, it will show up.
Thank you, Rand. There's certain things that will automatically go to that payment screen because you don't have a choice. It's due and payable right then, like your 9%, your this fund. But there are other things that you're invoiced for that you do have a choice of paying right now or paying later. But that the retiree insurance, it could be that somebody is dropping off that you want to pay for everybody else. So I think you can actually drill down to the member and say, I'm going to pay these. And once you select those, they will carry on to your payment screen. Then you'll see them.
Okay, the next one's a long one. We are set up with pay period reporting. Our 4 summer pays are set up on independent pay periods for the same day. We can create the Gemini report in IV selecting multiple pay periods, but the pays are not consolidated to one record per payment reason. We can only submit one base pay per report per individual. Do we need to submit each pay separately and select a different calendar day, although they are all paid on the same day? Or will there be a summer pays flag that will allow us to submit several base pays within the same file?
The answer to the very last question is no, that won't be doable. If I understand the question, I think it's the same one we've had before. Yeah, you would be able to submit those on 4 different calendar dates. You would need a separate pay period set up on your payroll schedule with different dates. So you can't just submit the same pay period, beginning, end, and pay date 4 different times on 4 different dates. You'll actually have to have 4 different payroll lines on your payroll schedule. Doesn't necessarily have to match what you've done physically. I understand you're giving all those checks at the same time or cutting them all or all on the same day, but you can report them to us differently. But again, it has to match something that's on your payroll schedule. And you can set up special pays for those summer months and do that. And then your only other option is to, sum up all those BS records and sum up all the whatever records for each person. If your software is not doing that for you, that can be a tedious process for you, depending on the size of your district. So my suggestion would be to set up special pays on your payroll schedule. We can help you with that. And you can just make the pay date 1 day difference for each one, and that should work.
Can you please review again how to make any corrections to reporting? And also when we do the annual when do we do the annual certification? So I'm not sure if the question is you're making corrections throughout the year or making corrections on the rolled up report.
Yeah, because if you're talking about making corrections on the annual certification process, I'm not ready to I don't have any details to show you right now. We have some mocked up screens, but I'm not prepared to show you those even, but that will be coming. So I think we just need to know exactly what she wants. I don't want to get into a long dissertation about adjustments there if that's not what she's looking for.
And we can, or Sue, if you want to call us, if you do need to make corrections right now, and we can help you with the adjustment process right now. And then her other question is, when do we do the annual certification?
Oh, right. The plan is to turn on that ability to start the process the first part of June. But, you know, if you just think it through, most likely you're not going to be ready yet, because all the payrolls for this fiscal year have to be reported before you start that roll-up process. Chances are you're not going to have that done until, you know, July 1st anyway, or July 10th is the deadline to have it all done. So, you know, it will probably be available to you to do, but you won't want to start it until everything is totally reported. And it'll be available until you do start the process and get it going. But you'll have to keep in mind that August 15th deadline to not only start the process, but make any corrections you need to make, and you know, get it all the way done to TRS by August 15th.
How will FY21 July and August payrolls happen? There is a lag before you can process the next payroll, and the due dates of payments are July 10th.
Read the first part. Is this just a question about the summer months?
Yes, how will FY21 July and August payrolls happen, since there is a lag before you can process the next payroll and the due dates is July 10th?
Yeah, and you know, I think there's some examples in FAQs, but and districts are going to do this different ways, but hopefully you're thinking about how you're going to do it. But basically, you're going to report those summer months that you're paying out your teachers, and then pay for them and pay for the contributions by July 10th. We get that you're reporting them to us before it ever happens, but that's, you know, the statutory deadline and always has been, to get those payments to us by July 10th. So how you do it, you know, whether you report it all at once at the end of June and sum everything up like the earlier question, you know, add up all your BS records for each individual. So it looks like it's one report. You could do it that way. You could send in separate payments. I'm
So
sorry?
it's my question, but can you create another file if the TRS hasn't accepted the first payroll? Because it doesn't have to,
if you're sending them in on separate, you'll need to finish one and then the next day do the next one, just like you are now.
but you know, with weekends, it's, you know, it may not
Yeah.
process. That's what I'm asking. So what if you can't make the 10th because TRS isn't processing them fast enough?
Yeah, we're going to do everything we can to help you get those in. You know, the key there is not wait till the July 10th to try to get 5 reports in. And we realize that you're going to have to report them to us before it ever happens on payroll. We get that. But you are going to have to allow enough time to get them to us by July.
Well, the one problem that I'm finding and I'm not liking is that you can't pick a pay date. So like if we
Right.
process them in June, then some of those payments may come out in June, but if we don't really want the TRS costs to come out until next fiscal year, we can't say what date the
Right.
payment gets posted.
Yeah, we know that's a pain point for sure. It's not going to be, and
So
we
I
plan
can't
on
process
allowing that, but
I didn't budget for.
Yeah, point taken. I don't have a good comment for that other than, you know, if you want those payments to come out next fiscal year, then July 1st is the date that you start that process. But you can get the report all the way ready to pay and just not submit it until, you know, the day you want it to come out, or after 2 o'clock on the 31st, and it'll come out on the 1st. But yeah, ideally we would have that ability for you to post date it, but it's just not there yet, and it won't be there for July.
Grant, I have a question then, since it won't be there
Uh-huh.
by July. This is Megan from Plano.
Yeah,
So
Megan.
my concern is I'm going to have, for both of my entities, I am going to have 4 payrolls, 2 for July, 2 for August, that I'm going to have to submit. And like she just said, with weekends, I'm only going to have July 1st and the 4th through the 8th. So I'm going to have 6 days to work with, but with 4 payrolls and not being able to submit my SSP payment
Mhm.
on the same day as my regular defined benefit payment, I'm going to need 8 days essentially to submit all 4 of my payroll payments. It's not going to work in a 6-day period for me. So
The
who do I
SS
need to-
hold on a second. The
Mhm.
SSP and the DB report in the same day will be fixed with release 2/9, and that is coming in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, all right. So then I'll be able to submit a whole payroll every day.
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right, then that solves my problem. Thank you.
Ran with her superhero cape. But the other concerns that, you know, with that short window, Megan and the other one that brought it up, we've got some people on this call that I know heard that, and we've heard that. So let us take that away too. I don't know that there's anything we can't do anything, I don't think, on the development side, but we can try to brainstorm it on the business side and see what we can do.
Yeah, and I guess something to consider too that I didn't even think about with the July 4th holiday, that really cuts us short too, because Monday will be a holiday. I don't know if you guys will allow payments, but obviously many of us don't work or take vacation that time of year. So like I'll literally have to submit payments on the 1st, 6th, 7th, and 8th and hope that they're all there on time. So yeah, is there any idea when we will be allowed? Like, will it be in FY23? When we'll be allowed to submit multiple
I hope
payments
so.
per day? Okay,
I hope so. Post grant, how's that? But we can bring it up to the Board of Trustees to see if we can cancel 4th of July this year. Just make it a work day.
well, my question would be, can we still, even if we're out on holiday, will we be able to submit payment on that day? Because I know a lot of automated systems won't allow it on a holiday.
Right. Does the ACH process run on holidays, Susan, Ryan?
We don't run any day that it's a banking holiday.
Right, and we don't run on weekends.
So doesn't matter how hard you work, it's not going to happen. But again, we'll
We hear you.
point taken.
We
Exactly.
do really hear you.
Let's we'll take it away. Thank you.
Will we be able to make adjustments to days worked if we see they are not correct during the annual certification?
Yes. Short answer, yes. How you'll be able to do that, you know, it won't have to be through another report. It'll be within the certification screens. You'll be able to make those corrections. But any details beyond that, again, it's not fully developed. The plan is there, but I'm not ready to talk about it yet.
How to handle after-school tutoring by a full-time certified teacher and also for a non-cert that is also a licensed teacher? Would it be LE?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Let me do this one. If it's done by a full-time teacher, I'm assuming it's being done on a day they're already working. And so you've already reported their days paid with their base salary earnings. So that would be reported as payment reason of ED. If it's done by a non-cert teacher, we need to make sure that this tutoring requires licensure to be reportable. For the full-time contractual, part-time contractual teacher, it is reportable, regardless of whether the duty requires licensure, because it involves the supervision of students and is related to the academic program. If a non-cert teacher is doing this, we need to make sure that the duty requires licensure under the school code, and that's a determination that's made by the Illinois State Board of Education and not by TRS or the district. If it does not require licensure, it is not reportable for a non-certified person doing this. If it's done by a teacher's aide or a substitute teacher, it is not reportable if the work does not require licensure. If it does require licensure, then it would be reportable as payment reason H. I'm sorry, not payment reason H, employment type H, part-time non-contractual, and the payment reason would be BS. So for those people who are not contractual teachers, it hinges on, does it require licensure? So Stephanie, if you want to call me with that, I can help you get in touch with the state board to find out if it requires licensure, and we can walk through reporting it for your non-contractual teachers. Can we clean up doc days and COVID sick day give back in the annual CERT process instead of doing adjustments for each employee in Gemini during a payroll processing period?
So for somebody who was docked and now you're changing that to a paid leave, that'd be the only thing you'd need to clean up, right? Lisa?
Yes, yes.
I'm just thinking it through. I see if there's any harm in that. I would think that would be possible.
I would agree, but whether it's done, I think through the annual certification process or now, it would still be an adjustment to the pay period in which the docking occurred.
The one thing I would caution is, the fewer changes you have to make in the annual certification process, the easier your life's going to be in the long run. So, I mean, it's been designed so that it is easier than making changes throughout the year. But on the other hand, you're talking about a year's worth of data that you may have quite a few things that you want to correct or adjust. So if you could get that done before the certification process, that would definitely be advisable.
We are up to date in Gemini and we have a balance. What happens to this balance at the end of the current fiscal year?
Well, in theory, it should all be gone. Once you're totally caught up through the end of June, all your credits that you've paid through the old way should be used up. But if there is a balance, Susan, what happens to it? Or Lisa or anybody?
I'm trying to look her up right now. I'm wondering if this is a crossover issue. Where you just have a small balance sitting there right now and you want us to take care of it. If you call accounting, we can help you clear up your credits right now if you would like to. It looks like you have credits. Or the next time you go to make a payment, you can use those credits and short us a little bit. So those are your two options. It's when you get to your next payment, you take these credits, or If you want us to refund those now so you get back to zero, call accounting and we can help you do.
And we're talking little credits.
Mm,
You know, if you have $1,000 in there,
They have like $17, $139, $249, and 50
yeah,
cents.
I mean, the main thing you want to make sure is, did you miss reporting somebody? Is that why you have credits? So, you know, we don't want to making adjustments that's going to end up turning in reverse if you discover that your reporting was incorrect along the way. But accounting, yeah, has gone above and beyond helping districts with some of this, the small write-offs or rounding issues. And
Right,
we
and
do-
there was another question further down in the chat that kind of has the same problem with $1.87. So yes, if you call us before you do your next report, we can help you with your $1.87. So for anyone that's making that crossover between you've been paying through First Data and you've been using up all your credits and you're ready to make that crossover and make your first payments through Gemini, if you call accounting, we can help you take care of your balance so that you start with zero. Because by now, you know, you might have that 50 cents for every pay period, you might be up to $10 now, and it's not going to let you do anything with your $10. So call accounting when you're ready to cross over if you're not at zero, and we can help you get to zero.
Okay, the next question is a full annual rate question and then deferred earnings. Summer school doesn't have anything to confirm with their annual rate. I'm not sure what the question is, Julie, but if you're reporting somebody as employment type of full-time or part-time contractual and they have payment reason of summer school, the full annual rate you report is the full annual rate for their full-time or part-time contractual position. It has nothing to do with summer school. It's the base rate for the position they're filling. If all they're doing is summer school, you're reporting them as employment type part-time non-contractual, and you don't report a rate for part-time non-contractual.
Okay, can I just ask a quick question there? Okay, so like last July and July for summer school, they don't have an annual rate because their contract isn't starting in September. So we had to go back last fiscal year and use those annual rates. Is that going to be okay on that annual report?
Yes, that will be fine because we are rolling up the annual rate. And if somebody worked all year long and they were not docked, then their rate and earnings will be equal. If we have to blend the rate, we've got different rules for annual rates for somebody who may have worked all year versus a partial year. But that should not be a problem with annual roll-up.
What if it doesn't agree? Will it air the annual report?
It should not, no.
Okay.
The next question is deferred earnings. I have to certify every payroll when an employee is on FMLA non-paid. While I have to certify the entire payroll, will I have to certify the entire payroll of deferred earnings for payroll in June, July, and August? And that should be no, because that is when we expect to see 0 days paid with deferred flag, yes.
right. We're about at time here, Lisa.
Okay, I
right.
still have, sorry, I was just gonna say, I still have about 30 some questions. I will
Yeah.
copy these and we will try to get back to everybody. If we don't get back to you, please give us a call.
Yeah, and Shiloh, you wanted to say a couple things about SSP real quick?
Yeah, we have run into, and we mentioned this, it came up on last week's call. We have run into a couple districts that maybe aren't seeing the SSP report, deferrals report when they go out into Gemini. And so I just wanted to just give a quick, and we'll put it in an FAQ, but you can basically, when you go to look for SSP deferrals report, it's going to default to the last 30 days. And a new one doesn't generate unless someone enrolls or makes changes. So a lot of the initial one went out on 2/22. So to be able to look for all SSP, suggesting if you X out the report run date range field and update the date range, go back to 2/22/22, and then at the end date, pick the current date, you'll see all the reports, and then you can choose the most recent one. That way, if there are no changes, you can still see that none came up. If you haven't looked in the last 30 days, or no one's made changes in the last 30 days, you can still see that original one and confirm that you're taking it right. But a new report will generate each time, and an email should go out anytime anyone makes a change. But until someone makes a change, that's an ongoing deferral. It could be months, it could be years. But you still should take it until they make a change and we send you a new report.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you as always. I know we covered a lot today, so if you have any questions, let us know. And we will talk to you next week.